Let's talk about what you guys are doing internationally on that scale.
Well, I work with our missionaries who are in 17 countries around the world and many ministries that are under our umbrella. We have so many different types of missionary activities. We have church planters, we have disciplers, those that are meeting human needs and helping to plant the gospel in places that are very difficult and that are not easily accessed today. We have a wonderful friend and missionary that has joined us recently, Paul Doss, that's going to be sharing. And Paul shares the gospel through a very unusual way of helping villagers find a way to make a living for themselves.
Okay. I oversee public relations and communications, if you will, and so I had the privilege of meeting with Paul and visiting with him, and actually here, I guess just a little bit, we'll watch a video there, and it's really just to get to know the ministries and what they're doing and how we can be a voice for them and spread the gospel through the different mediums that we have available in the media.
Okay.
And Paul is a phenomenal example of that. I think that, from what we do, trying to communicate the message that Christ is doing, be it locally or globally, or through the different missionaries. We have Paul doing business as missions. We have another gentleman that may be in Sri Lanka who's working in a church plant. And so the more that we can hear these stories and find out really what God is doing, and then be able to communicate that, that's really the key. And so that's what we're hoping even today can accomplish, is really just how God's working and how we can get involved as a church. Paul would be described as a tent maker. And so I guess let's start off with saying, what is tent making?
Thank you. The tent making, the word very much comes from St. Paul's teaching from 2 Thessalonians 3rd chapter on let your own hands work. So he ministered, he met with people, he talked to them at the same time for his own personal needs that he kept making tent, and he raised his own food. So I liked that, and that's what we needed for the people in India. So that's what I'm promoting and doing myself.
And so your ministry has been around for how long?
It's about 32 years now. And we began in South India, a place called Bangalore. And from there now spread it out almost every state of the India. Very good,
very good. And so from, how do you teach tent making? I guess that's part of the objective of your ministry.
I think I would probably go back to an old Chinese proverb, if you have heard of it. Give a fish to a man, he will eat and he will come back to you. Teach him how to fish, then he will fish for the rest of his life. That's the old Chinese proverb, but we have added one more phrase to that. Make them to fish in their own pond. Do not hold the fish pond. So that's the freedom, giving them wings to fly. So the tent making is the leaders, those who are helping them need to set a model of doing their own work, or maybe their own skill development or vocation to raise their own income. The same model you transfer to the community, so that the community also looking at you, that you are standing on your own and now you are teaching the same thing to them. So we teach to the people and empower to them so that they would also learn a skill. If there is no skills identified, we will try to work with them closely, identify, and then if it is necessary, we will start a training program for them so that they can be trained.
I guess explain the caste system, maybe that will help.
Yes, since in India there is so much of caste system, there are so many castes, but the major division is the upper caste and the lower caste. The lower castes are considered to be untouchables. And there was a time in the history in India, the upper caste man, when he is walking, the lower caste man's shadow cannot also fall on him. That becomes untouchable, or he's become unclean even by the shadow. So that's now kind of faded out, but still the stigma of low caste and upper caste is there. In a way, I would also say this is very much like in the Jesus time, in the Bible time, that you see the Samaritans. They were the lower caste, and the woman at the well, she would look at Jesus Christ and say, you are a high caste, and how do you ask water? That system is still there in India. So our political move, our the employment for the people, or the way they are considered, taken in, coming in contact with them, all these things so much based on the casteism. So we try to empower, because there is so much of poverty in among the the untouchables. So we try to reach out and minister to them by empowering them so that we can lift them up, providing maybe education or a skill development program, or help them in agriculture, and some places even providing them like drinking water facilities. With all these things, bring the dignity so that we can lift them up.
So do you have an example of a life transformed, I guess, through this process of tent making?
There is one very classic story. When I say classic, it is very close to my heart. There was a lady who was oppressed by 3 men, and she was also very much abused and rejected by the community, the society. And it was very shocking when I saw her for the first time. She looked very much skin and bone. There is no any flesh on her body. And then she was in need of food, in need of good place to live, but there was nobody who would provide anything to her to support, because in her religious faith, people believed that it is the curse from God that she has to go through that. So we met this woman and asking many questions, that what you want to do. Now she had 2 children, very small. She also was with the HIV/AIDS, and she did not have any man to support her, and so the only thing what she's looking forward is the death. So at that point of time, when I happened to meet her through a local pastor, we interacted with her, and I asked her any skill that she would like to learn, but she didn't have a clue, no idea what she can learn. So I started a small popcorn making project for her. We went and got some corns and the oil and some spice, and showed how to make popcorn in her own small little house. The house, probably her entire house, was one of the bathroom size here.
And this is in a slum area, correct?
It's in a slum area. So I put her through the training. In few hours, she got to see how the popcorn is popping, and without using any kind of machines, tools, or gadgets. And then once when we put them in the packets, and then prayed with the local pastor and the leaders, prayed with her. We left, and we also found some people selling live fish in our area. And we got that, and then we sliced it, and then we fried, and we said, take it and put it at your a doorstep, and then sell it. She took it and started selling. Very interestingly, in 1 week's time, I get a mail from this pastor calling and telling me, this lady is making in Indian rupees 175 rupees per day, just the profit alone. She could not even dream that kind of money. Even a graduate would not start 175 rupees per day salary. And that's what she is earning. That's not the end. After some time, the pastor calls to tell me, if you come and look at this lady, you would think that she don't have any disease in her body. She looks more healthy, happy, and she's doing so good.
Wow.
Then a little later, this woman also come to know the power of the living God, the love of the living God. Now that is the key factor, that what we wanted to give it to her. More than the popcorn, more than the money. And she understood. And the end result, she said, I want that loving God in my heart. And she even invited that living God in her heart, Jesus Christ. So that is, to me, that's a very precious personal story.
How would the story have been different if you would have led with sharing the gospel with this young lady versus trying to figure out a way within her own resources?
See, if I was going to give only the gospel, I'm not looking at any other areas of her need, she would have never had a full heart to sit and listen, because she's oppressed, she's already in pain. Her mind is all the time looking at how she can get those things. So what you want to say, even though it is the kingdom message, it's not going to go deep into her heart. I think I'm very much even reminded after Jesus having talked to 5,000 people, he was so much concerned about feeding them also. And he made it as a point that before he sent them home, feed them all.
Wow.
And he took what was in their hand and multiplied to feed them.
Wow.
So here, when we go to the community, when I'm teaching the appropriate technology, take it what is available in their hand and bless it and multiply it for them. And it is not something from outside, it is not something foreign, it is not something new what they cannot understand, it is there. Their eyes did not see it. So when we take them, and when the gospel goes along with that, the gospel becomes a living word for them actually. It's more meaningful for them. So that's where it makes the impact.
Very good. And Mike, Paul has been with you to Haiti. You were in Haiti as a missionary for almost 20 years. And so just briefly talk about, I guess, that experience there. How was Paul able to help even in Haiti?
Well, we'd been working with an agricultural project in our area, and one of the missing components was micro-enterprises, helping start small businesses for cash flow. And so we invited Paul to come and join us in the project, and he did teaching with small groups in our area. And even though they're two different countries and two different cultures and two different languages, he understood the people, and the problems were so similar between the impoverished in Haiti and the impoverished in India that he was able to touch right on their needs and help them open their eyes to possibilities right around them and get the ball rolling with small businesses.
That's great. And so we have an example here of one of the scarves. Now explain these scarves, if you will.
Well, this scarf is made out of pure silk, and the silk is being raised locally there in the village from the egg and caterpillar and cocoon stage, and then they reel the thread. And there were girls without any kind of educational background, and slowly they are into all kind of risk factor. So I thought, I need to show them something very appropriate. Now this is again Jesus feeding those 5,000 people, the food taken from the boy who was one among the crowd. This is the silk taken from them and put it back into their own hands with a new look on it. So I taught them how to make these very simple, the color dye work to create all kind of designs. I've got many examples. And 13 girls, I took them and put them through training. They all came and they learned how to make this, and it does not require any artist, just somebody who would look and watch and learn, and they make it. They learned it. But the most beautiful thing, they learned, they started earning their money, and they started understanding the power of not only the living God, it is the loving God. Because they ask us, how come that you come and teach us, but somebody from my own community does not show anything to us? So that's the time we tell them, Jesus said, love your neighbor as thyself. And this is how we show the love. What we could earn just making it by ourselves, keeping it for ourselves, we are trying to teach you also so that you can also earn the same way like we earn. And that's something they cannot comprehend. They cannot just digest, because that's not the thing from their community they have seen. So it's totally different. But now, all those 13 girls, they are very eager to know more about Jesus Christ. And all those 13 girls are also coming for all kind of prayer meetings and other things.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I would say that if you guys are interested in being involved in the ministry, buying one of these scarves, one of the things that Paul has shared, and Mike, is the need for microcredit loans to be able to allow individuals to be able to start their own businesses or fund projects. That information would be available through hopeforthehungry.org, which is our website.